Hey guys, Sam here, and welcome to the first review of 2026. Yes, I want the Yankees to win it all. No, I'm not doing a stupid bet again. And as far as how my 10th anniversary review will go, I'm not sure. It all depends on how much you guys enjoy it. Happy 700 subs, everybody! Anyway, with that said, I'm going to talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not the show, but its spin-off comics. Like any other popular franchise, Avatar also got its own comic books and graphic novels. Some tried to pick up where the original show left off, some gave us adventures in between episodes from the show, and some were just there to tell jokes. And a lot of them were done by using very different and interesting art styles. Today, I want to look at some of the Avatar comics from the Lost Adventure series and Team Avatar Tales series. In fact, I have the hardcover collection of those comics right here. It's expensive, but it's worth every penny. Now, before I start, I have to acknowledge that I cannot talk about every single story that's in this collection. It's around 300 pages long, and I don't want to make you watch a very, very, very long video that drones on and on about every single comic ever made. So here's what I will do. There are 4 sections in this collection. The comics from Book 1, Water, Book 2, Earth, Book 3, Fire, and Book 4, More Stories, or the Team Avatar Tales collection. I will talk about my top 3 favorite stories in depth from each section. So 3 times 4 equals 12. Okay? I think that's enough for one video, right? Again, these stories are my personal favorites from each section, whether they're dramatic, funny, have great artwork, or all the above. I'll also mention a few other stories I liked as well, but they're more of my honorable mentions, and I'll try to talk about them briefly. Alright, with that out of the way, let's begin. How about we start with the first comic in Book 1, Be Calm. Yeah, the pun's kinda lame. In this story, the gang come across a scorpion bee, which lands on Aang's face. Despite Sokka and Katara's worries, Aang doesn't panic. He says if he just stays calm, the creature won't bother him. But then more of them come. Then more, and more. Now Aang is covered from head to toe, so he uses airbending to get them off him. Now they're bothered and start chasing after him. Sokka tells him to head for smoke because it makes the bees tired. Aang does so, but he finds out the fire and smoke were made by a Fire Nation soldier. Luckily, one bee that clung to Aang buzzes over to the soldier and lands on his face, and as Aang runs off, he advises the soldier to not bother it. Yeah, it's pretty short and simple, but I like it. The artwork is really good, it has some good jokes, and learning about a scorpion bee was kinda cool. Although I imagine it would be terrifying for people in India. I mean, have you seen the giant forest scorpion? Jeebus cross, that thing is huge. Bottom line, I thought this was a decent comic and a nice start to the Lost Adventure series. I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10. Here's my second favorite, Don't Blow It. You remember when we met Aang for the first time? Remember when he tried to say his name but he had to let out a big sneeze first? Well, imagine if he did that while having a cold. That's what this story's about. One day, Aang gets a little case of the sniffles. And by little, I mean not even close to that. He sneezes so hard that he jumps several feet in the air, blasting away everything around him. It gets so bad that Sokka has to tie him to Appa while flying, just in case he sneezes again. Katara suggests that Aang can use what she used as a little girl when she was sick. She said her mother made a paste of blubber and pepper berries to rub on her chest. It was gross, but it helped. Think of it as this universe's cold chest rub creams. Aang refuses the treatment, saying that he and the Air Nomad monks would just let the sniffles blow themselves out. But after he says that, he lets out another hard sneeze, so hard that it has him even higher in the air, which gets him spotted by the Fire Nation soldiers. The gang is able to pack up their stuff and get out of there, but the lesson is learned. Aang finally relents and he uses the paste. And the story ends with Sokka trying to say that he never gets sick. But after he lets out a big sneeze, he asks Aang to pass the stuff over to him. Yeah, this one's just funny. I like the exaggerated artwork, the comedic timing is solid even in comic form, and the expressions are great. It also shows just how dangerous a sick Aang can really be. Hey, you know how he and Katara got married and had 3 kids? Could you imagine if he was sick during one of the deliveries and he was looking in and, yeah, that would make a C-section look less traumatic. Honestly, this one is also simple, but I find it to be funnier than Be Calm. Plus, I like the title Don't Blow It more. Final score, 8.5 out of 10. And here's number 1 for me, Relics. It's not just for the artwork and comedy that makes it my favorite, it's also the writing and the ending. In this one, the gang is at another village market during their journey to the Northern Water Tribe, and comes across a merchant selling rare items, like an ancient airbender pendant. But the merchant says he got that pendant from someone a couple days ago. That gets Aang excited and curious to learn more. The merchant says the someone he mentioned comes from the high mountains, but it's a sacred place full of spirits and no one has dared to go up there. This makes Aang want to check it out, but he can't tell his friends about it because they're so focused on getting to the Northern Water Tribe. So, while his friends are asleep, Aang sneaks out and travels up the mountain to see if there is another airbender like him that's still alive. His hope grows when he finds a stupa, an air nomad structure that's built close to a cave dwelling. That must mean an airbender is in there, right? Well, when Aang enters the cave, he comes across a hooded man, who turns out to be the merchant! Dun dun dun! Suddenly, Aang gets ambushed and trapped in a net. Yep, it was all a trap laid out by Fire Nation Admiral Zhao. He tells Aang that after Fire Lord Sozin's first assault on the air temples, a few airbenders did manage to escape and were hard to find. So, the Fire Nation lured them out by making certain caves look like safe places inhabited by airbender refugees. They also used airbender artifacts to fool them, and after they trapped them, they killed them. This time, Zhao used that same tactic on Aang and it worked. But he made one little mistake. He doesn't know what the relics can actually do. So, Aang shows him. He breaks free, uses the relics to keep the firebenders off balance, grabs his staff, and escapes. By morning, Katara and Sokka are trying to find him. When they do, Katara guesses that Aang was out in the mountains because they remind him of home, and that airbenders like him would be attracted to them. Aang frowns, drops his head, and says, "Yeah, a few of them probably were." The end. Well, that's depressing. Honestly, this short story is so good that I wish it could have been an animated episode in the show. Hell, it would have been better to have this in Season 1 than The Great Divide. That episode was just a nothing burger. This story actually has fascinating lore, really good writing, amazing artwork, and the drama that makes Avatar one of a kind. It also shows us how the Fire Nation was even more ruthless than we thought, using the Air Nomads culture and its relics to lure airbenders out of hiding so they could trap and kill them. That's pretty dark. The franchise is no stranger to dark subject matter, but this is right up there with some of the darkest stuff I've ever seen from Avatar. This just makes Zhao even more evil, which makes it more funny and satisfying when Aang uses the Air Nomad artifacts to outwit him and his men. These panels are wonderfully colorful and chaotic in the best way. It not only shows how bright Aang is, but it also shows us his smart-ass side again. I love it. But yeah, the ending is pretty sad and bittersweet. Aang was just hoping that he really wasn't the last one. Maybe a few of his people did survive. But no, he truly is the last one. At least until Legend of Korra came along. Bottom line, Relics is a very good story, and if this was a Season 1 animated episode, I would have picked it as one of my favorites. Final score, 9 out of 10. Now, here are my honorable mentions for Book 1. Water War. In this one, Katara catches two boys pranking people by dropping water balloons on their heads. So, she gives them a nice dose of karma. It's funny, it's quick, and it has one of my favorite Katara quotes. Only a moron challenges a waterbender to a water war. And the line is made funnier when we see Sokka do this. Dude, do you have a death wish or something? I do like this short story, but I just found Be Calm and Don't Blow It to be funnier. Final score for Water War is a 7 out of 10. Then there's Fruit Stand Freestyle. It's just Momo getting into a scrap with another animal over a piece of fruit. It's not bad, but it's just kinda meh for me. I do like the artwork though, and I think it captures the chase between Momo and the other animal nicely. So I'll be nice and give this one a 6 out of 10. Alright, now we're on to Book 2, and let's start it off with my third favorite comic, Sleep Bending. Remember when I said that Aang being sick is dangerous? Well, turns out he is also dangerous when he's having a really good dream. No, not that kind of dream. Get your minds out of the gutter. One night, Aang dreams about riding a wild, flying fishpotamus. Because, of course, this makes Aang unconsciously earthbend a pillar out of the ground, waking his friends up. Now he starts levitating, and his waves of wind start creating more mayhem. His friends try to wake him up, but they can't. Then, Aang's sleep bending creates a rock slide. His friends are able to run away, but Aang doesn't wake up until a tiny little pebble lands on his head. He gets up and says, "Morning all, you won't believe the awesome dream I had." "I bet," Toph replies. Yeah, this one's also pretty short, and it's not the funniest comic ever, but I have a soft spot for it. Why? Because this was the first Avatar comic story I ever read. I had one of those Nickelodeon magazines growing up, and this was one of the featured comics inside it. So yeah, it's a nostalgia pick for me. But it's still pretty funny. The artwork is good, the little details on how Aang's friends failed to wake him up is great, and the ending was just priceless for me. It's not the greatest short story, but it's nice, and again, I've got a soft spot for it. Final score, 7.5 out of 10. Number 2, Sokka the Avatar. Yes, this is a story where Sokka pretends to be the Avatar just to impress a girl. Is it as funny as it sounds? You bet. Sokka gets Aang to do some bending for him to impress a random village girl. She loves it so much that she makes Sokka her boyfriend, has her family meet him, and tells her entire village about him. Now, Sokka is the one giving Avatar advice, and he gets Aang, Katara, and Toph to do some bending and make it look like he's doing it to wow the crowd. Unfortunately, it gets the attention of the Rough Rhinos. They invade the village and capture Sokka, so his friends fight them off, save Sokka, and he learns to not pretend to be someone he isn't. But that development goes out the window after the girl he likes kisses him and praises him for letting his sidekicks do the work so they could save the day for once. So while Sokka goes back to using the Avatar lie, the comic ends with his friend saying, "You know what? I think it's time we expose this fraud." I mentioned this story in another video, but I am so glad to talk about it in depth here. This is just funny. The art, the dialogue, the action, and the comedy were so good here. Although it does have its flaws. 1. Those Fire Nation soldiers really thought this was the Avatar? The Fire Nation started putting up Avatar wanted posters back in book 1. This story takes place in book 2. One of these things is not like the other. I get not every Fire Nation soldier is a genius, but they're not this stupid. Number 2, I don't mind it too much, but I can imagine some fans being put off by Sokka acting like a jerk to his friends, like calling the actual Avatar his servant. Yes, I know it's supposed to lead to karmic justice against Sokka later. Honestly, I found it to be fine and funny, but I get why some may not. And finally, number 3, there are a few faces that are a bit off to me, like the face Katara makes here. Look at her, she looks so stoned. It's all that blubbered seal jerky, isn't it? But despite that, I still thought this story was hilarious. Final score, 8 out of 10. Number 1, Going Home Again, and The Bridge. Honestly, I couldn't figure out which one was better, so I decided to put them together as number 1. Both are just really good stories and help bridge that gap between the end of book 2 and the start of book 3. Coming Home Again revolves around Zuko, who has seemingly restored his honor. But he doesn't know if betraying Uncle Iroh to get it back was the right choice or the worst choice ever. Either way, he's not interested in going back home. Not with Zula, anyway. So, she devises a plan to make him come home. She, Ty Lee, and the Dai Li agents set up a romantic dinner date for Zuko and his childhood crush, Mei. It's as awkward, funny, and cute as you'd expect. When they figure out it was all a setup, they go for a walk through Ba Sing Se, where they come across Jin. Yeah, the girl Zuko went on a date with in the Tales of Ba Sing Se episode. She's back, and she still remembers Lee. So, Zuko continues that circus lie by saying that Mei is his knife-throwing friend from the circus. Mei goes along with it and demonstrates her skill by putting Zuko up against a fountain. You know how archers used arrows to hit the apple on someone's head? Well, Mei attempts to do the same thing, but with an icicle in her hand and a fish on Zuko's head. She makes it, obviously, but then she gets Jin to try it. She misses the target, thankfully, but she makes Zuko stumble and fall into the fountain. Zuko's obviously embarrassed, but Mei found it to be humorous, and she's smiling. and happy, which Zuko notices, and he admits that he's missed that side of her. This rekindles their feelings for each other, and they share a kiss. Next morning, the others are ready to head back home by ship. Zuko is still hesitant about going, but after some convincing by May, and after seeing the harsh treatment Iroh is getting, Zuko makes up his mind. He says, "I'm going back to the Fire Nation," and Azula happily says, "Do what you want, Zuzu, it's your decision." Yeah, Azula's a demon, but she's a very cunning and intelligent demon. By taking advantage of Zuko and May's crushes on each other, she ultimately got what she wanted. She couldn't have designed it any better. Other than that, there are other reasons why I like this story. The artwork is splendid, the comedy is solid, it was sweet to see Jin again, and we get some more depth for Zuko. Yeah, he betrayed his uncle and tried to make it seem like that's what he wanted, but deep down, he feels terrible. He betrayed him just so he could get that honor back, and as we saw in the first half of Book 3, while the paradise seems nice, it wasn't exactly what Zuko wanted. It just didn't feel right. He even started feeling that way after the Avatar fell, and if you remember his last moments in Book 2, he didn't say that he was going home. He was doubting that his father would restore his honor. Of course, when we got to episode 1 of Book 3, we saw him on the ship going home. So, if anyone had any questions as to why he would go back if he was that hesitant, this comic answers those questions. Plus, maybe it's a me thing, but I do like Zuko and May together. I found that fish and icicle act to be cute, and I do like the callback to the episode Zuko Alone, where they both ended up in the water together. That's why May said, "Now we're even." In conclusion, Coming Home Again was a solid story, with decent writing, comedy, and good character moments. Final score, 9 out of 10. As for the bridge, it shows us how the Avatar gang were able to sneak out of Ba Sing Se and steal a Fire Nation ship. The story is told by Katara through diary entries. At that point, she was trying everything she could to heal Aang, but he wouldn't wake up. During the ordeal, Sokka comes up with a plan to steal a Fire Nation ship and use it as cover. So, him and Katara, along with their father Hakoda, his friend Bato, Toph, Pipsqueak, and the Duke, trashed their old Water Tribe boats to make it seem like they were defeated. Then, they snuck onto a Fire Nation ship and caught its crewmen by surprise. After they put on their disguises, they used the ship to get through the Serpent's Pass. They also learned from the soldiers there that the war is almost over because the Avatar is dead. That's when Sokka gets another great idea. He suggests that they use that to their advantage before they orchestrate the Day of Black Sun invasion. Even though Katara hates it, she admits that using Aang's death will keep her and her friends from being hunted for the time being. All they could do now is keep on fighting and remain confident that the Avatar will return. Like Coming Home Again, the bridge also answers some questions, like how do they steal that ship and get through the Serpent's Pass so they can head west to the Fire Nation? Well, the comic shows us. It's well drawn, the dialogue is pretty good, and it was priceless seeing the Fire Nation soldiers get their ship taken in embarrassing fashion. It's also a pretty bleak story. Katara is mostly miserable here, as she doubts her own healing abilities and wonders when Aang will wake up again. If people thought she was too harsh on her father and Zuko in Book 3, remember this comic. She thought her healing wasn't good enough to bring Aang back, and like Aang, she at first didn't like the idea of the entire world thinking he was dead. There are hardly any moments where we see that hopeful and optimistic side of her. Ba Sing Se really changed her. At that point, her biggest concern was Aang, and she didn't want to leave his side. But she had to so she could help her friend successfully pull off the boat napping plan. The comic also shows how smart Sokka really is. Both of his ideas were perfect, and without him leading the way, it would have either been tougher to escape, or they might have been found and captured, maybe even killed. At first, I was a little put off by the artwork on the characters, but after reading the story a few times, I think it's grown on me. It's not perfect, but art is never perfect. It's your own creative way to express yourself, and the artist did some good work here. In the end, both this and Coming Home Again are pretty good stories, and could only work well in this format. Final score, like Coming Home Again, is a 9 out of 10. Now, here are a few honorable mentions for Book 2. Divided we fall. During a bad storm, the gang gets split up and every one of them has their own misadventure. Aang gets chased by viper bats, Sokka and Katara have to deal with a band of thieves, and Toph is given a makeover by an old lady and her son in an old orphanage they run together. It has its moments, but it's not as good as the other stories I mentioned. 6.5 out of 10. It's only natural. Sokka tries to teach Bosco how to be a real bear in the real world. hijinks ensue. It has some funny slapstick and witty dialogue, but it's not one of my favorites. Although it does give us another reason why the Earth King decided to split up from the group and travel the world with Bosco. They were cooped up at Ba Sing Se for so long that they didn't know what the rest of the world looked like, so they wanted to see more of it. That, along with a few funny bits, makes this an okay story, but not the best. 6.5 out of 10. And finally, Dirty is only skin deep. Katara tries to make Toph take a bath. What the hell do you think happens? It does have a few good lines, like Sokka's last quote at the end, but it's kinda meh for me. 6 out of 10. Now we move on to Book 3. First up, number 3, Boys' Day Out. Remember when Katara and Toph had a spa day together in the Tales of Ba Sing Se? Well, in this one, Katara and Toph try to get some food from a local pub, but they're not allowed in because they're girls, so they disguise themselves as boys. The plan works, and they start blending in well. But Toph tells Katara that if she's gonna be in a tough atmosphere, she's gotta act tough. So Katara does just that, and it kinda works. But she goes overboard. She sees this universe's mechanical bull and rides it like a wild cowgirl. After she falls off and lands on someone, she starts taking the tough guy act a little too far. Luckily, Toph drags her out of there before things get worse. And the comic ends with them going to a spa and getting some tea and sandwiches instead. Yeah, this one's also hilarious, but here's why I find it to be hilarious. It's not just because of the dialogue and seeing Katara and Toph pretending to be boys, it's also because they switch roles. Katara is usually the calm and nice one, while Toph is the tough and brash one. But in this story, it's reversed. Katara is the one acting like a mean SOB, and it's Toph that becomes the voice of reason, who prevents Katara from getting into a fight with every person inside that place. It's really funny to me. Honestly, there's not much else I could say. This story just got me to crack up a lot, and because of that, I'm gonna give Boys' Day Out an 8 out of 10. Number 2, Combustion Man on a Train. I mean, the comic gives us what the title promises. It's Sparky Sparky Boom Man fighting the Avatar on an unstoppable train. It's just as fun and exciting as it sounds. Aang also befriends a little girl that he gives advice to, like teaching her how to breathe and remain calm during tense situations. Well, the girl takes that advice to heart so much that not only does she master it quickly, but she gets the rest of the passengers to do it. It's both really funny and cute. The action was nice, the dialogue was funny, and I really dig this comic's art style. Again, it may take time to adjust to it, but I think you'll like it. Hell, I loved it from the first time I read this. The comic is straightforward and gives you what it promises. A sweet fight with Combustion Man on a train. What more can you ask for? Final score, 8.5 out of 10. And number 1, Dragon Days. Or should I say, The Adventures of Aang and Kuzan? Yeah, this one actually features Kuzan in his first physical appearance. This comic takes place after Aang and Zuko met the dragons. Back at the Western Air Temple, they talk about how there were lots of dragons around during Aang's childhood 100 years ago. So Aang tells Zuko about the time he and Kuzan went looking for them in the mountains. But instead, they discovered a bunch of firebenders trying to sell a mother dragon's egg on the black market. So Aang and Kuzan step in to steal the egg back and return it to the dragon. Action and hilarity ensue. In the end, they save the egg and bring it back to a very grateful mother dragon. This one's my favorite because we finally get to see Aang and Kuzan interact with each other. The show only told us briefly about their friendship and how it was pretty strong. So strong that Aang used Kuzan's name as part of his disguise in Book 3. But this story shows us their friendship, and it didn't disappoint for me. Both of them have good chemistry, get some good laughs, have a few kick-ass moments together, and I buy their friendship easily. We also learn more about Kuzan. Like Aang, he's just as curious and wants to do the right thing, but he's also a risk taker, like standing his ground against a dragon, and he's a little too ambitious. For example, after he and Aang rescue the egg, Kuzan overplays his hand by saying, "Hey, could you give us a ride as a reward?" In response, the dragon gives a non-verbal but very clear no. It was worth a try. On top of that, this story shows us that Aang and Kuzan were both willing to do whatever it took to do the right thing. Remember, the people trying to sell the egg on the black market were firebenders. Kuzan went up against his own people, but that didn't matter to him. What mattered most to him and Aang was rescuing the egg and returning it to its mother. That's a very admirable thing they did. Honestly, I wish we could have gotten more Aang and Kuzan stories. Like, maybe we can have one where they meet for the first time, or when they saw each other for the last time. The possibilities are right there. But regardless of whether that happens or not, I'm still happy that we got this story. It's pretty damn good, and is my personal favorite comic from Book 3. Final score, 9.5 out of 10. Now here are my honorable mentions. Game Time. It's the Avatar gang playing hide and seek. It's cute and funny, but there's not much else for me to say. 6 out of 10. Ember Island Arcade. It's Zuko, Azula, Mei, and Ty Lee playing Fire Nation style arcade games. It's what you'd expect it to be. It's got a couple good bits, but again, there's not much else. Also, the art style is fine, but it's not one of my favorites. 6 out of 10. Sword Bending. Sokka challenges Zuko to a sword fight. Zuko kicks Sokka's ass constantly. But there are two things Sokka could do better than Zuko. One, win the Battle of Words, and two, he knows how to use a boomerang. It's pretty humorous, but not as funny as the other comics I mentioned. 6.5 out of 10. Boomy vs. Toph. Yep, that's right, this one's about Toph Beifong and King Boomy dueling each other to find out who is really the greatest earthbender ever. It's just as cool as it sounds. Honestly, if I was making a top 5 list, this story would be number 5. Final score, 7 out of 10. And finally, Private Fire. In this one, Sokka wants to learn more about the Fire Nation, so he gets enlisted in the Fire Nation army by using his Wang Fire disguise. It's just as funny and insane as it sounds. As you'd expect, Wang Fire sticks out like a sore thumb. He has a drill sergeant that doesn't like him, and he has to do awful tasks like cleaning up you know what. Eventually he escapes and reunites with the Avatar gang. Unfortunately, the army catches up to him, but he manages to get away by coming up with one of his great plans again. He says that Earthbender and Waterbender spies are in the cave, and Aang, Katara, and Toph make that lie come true by bending. This frightens the drill sergeant and his men, so Private Wang Fire goes in to quote-unquote fight them off, and he sacrifices his life for the Fire Nation when the cave collapses. That's funny enough, but the drill sergeant is so devastated by Wang's sacrifice that he not only calls him a true Fire Nation soldier, but he makes a memorial to honor him. Yeah, that was a pretty hilarious ending. Honestly, I do like this story. But the one thing that holds it back is that it does repeat some story beats from the Headband episode, when Aang pretended to be a student in the Fire Nation school. Hell, they reference that at the start of the comic. So Sokka pretty much did the same thing, but with military duty instead. Despite that, this story has great artwork, decent jokes, a hilarious ending, and I would have this comic be number 4 if I was making a top 5 list. It did come close to being number 3, but I just found Boys Day Out to be slightly better. Final score, 7.5 out of 10. Okay, time for the last section, the Team Avatar tales. First up, Sisters. In this one, Ty Lee is feeling a bit down. She says she likes being with the Kyoshi Warriors, but she feels her aura is off. So Toph tries to cheer her up by taking her to her old circus. While there, Ty Lee finds out that all 6 of her identical twin sisters joined the circus like she did. They said after Ty Lee ran away from home, they tried to find her and got to the circus after Ty Lee left with Azula. Then they decided to join the show as an ensemble act called the Flying Ty Sisters. This sours Ty Lee's mood because she felt that acrobatics were always her thing. She claims that she and her sisters had agreed to do their own things to make them stand out, like one of them plays the flute, one of them does origami, and one of them is an insult comic. But the sisters said they never agreed to that and accused Ty Lee of stealing acrobatics from them. This starts a fight amongst the sisters, which Ty Lee wants no part of. When the circus starts, Toph is enjoying it, but Ty Lee isn't. She fears that being with the Kyoshi Warriors is like being at home, looking the same, doing the same things, so she thinks about quitting. But after she and Toph leave the show, they catch a couple guys trying to burn the circus tent down. Toph takes care of the firebender, while Ty Lee goes after the big guy. But just when it looks like she's outmatched, her sisters come in to save her. That helps Ty Lee understand that there can be advantages to being part of a matched set, and she can't always tackle all of her problems alone. She decides to stay with the Kyoshi Warriors, not just because she can take off her makeup whenever she wants, but because they have become her sisters too. I do think this is a decent story, but it's not perfect. One, the art is mostly good, but there are a few wonky faces here and there. Maybe it's the mouths for me, I don't know. And second, the moment where Ty Lee's sisters come in to save her and they all make up was a little too fast for me. Maybe if the comic had a few more panels to flesh out that resolution, it could have made their big sister hug more endearing. But with that said, the comic does have some positives. Having Ty Lee and Toph together in a story was unique. There is some good artwork here, like this panel where all the sisters jump out at the same time. I thought that was neat. And of course, it was cool to see all of Ty Lee's identical sisters. Each of them has their own unique trait and colorful outfit, but they also have very similar names. There's Ty Lee, Ty Lin, Ty Lat, Ty Lao, Ty Leo, Ty Lum, and Ty Woo. Man, not only were their parents rabbits in heat, but they also sucked on coming up with original names. Also, while the episode Beach Day gave us a glimpse of why Ty Lee is the way she is, the comic shows us. All you need is this panel, and you get it quickly. Also, she didn't run off to join the circus because she hated her family. She doesn't, and she clearly loves her sisters. It's because she didn't want to be compared to them all the time, like her parents did when she was a kid. She wanted to be her own person. You know how families have that one golden child, the one who is the standard of excellence or something like that, and then there's the other child that is not that? They try to stand out in their own way, but sometimes that's tough when parents constantly do those sibling comparisons. Who's the better athlete? Who's the better academic? Who has the best behavior? And so on and so forth. So the comic did a good job fleshing out Ty Lee's character more. The comic also answers a question some fans had about her. If she didn't want to be in a match set for her entire life, why did she join the Kyoshi Warriors at the end of the show? Well, it wasn't just because she taught them how to chi block. It's also because she was given the choice to join them. With her family, she wasn't allowed to choose. She had to deal with 6 sisters that look identical to her, until she couldn't take it anymore. With the Kyoshi Warriors, she was given a choice, and she could still be her own person, whether she's in makeup or not. She didn't have to join them, but she did because she wanted to. In the show, she was able to bond with them while in prison, and she still has that bond with them in the comics. She just loves being with them and thinks of them as family too. And yeah, she may wear the makeup like them, but look at this image. You can figure out which one is her right away. She still stands out. In the end, I enjoy reading this one. Is it perfect? No, but it is a solid Ty Lee story. Final score, 7.5 out of 10. Number 2, Shells. In this story, Sokka and Suki go seashell shopping together. Unfortunately, their good mood is dampened when they find out the shop owners are sexist bullies. After making fun of a girl named Gia, who was just only looking around, Suki steps in and stands up for her. In response, the shop owners try to force her out. Yeah, big mistake. As expected, she kicks their asses and she walks out with Sokka unscathed. After they leave, they catch up with Gia to make sure she's okay. Gia figures out who Suki is and says she's a fan of the Kyoshi Warriors. She also says she's fascinated by Suki's fighting skills and wishes she could be just as strong as her. So Sokka and Suki offer to teach her the Kyoshi Warrior ways. Gia isn't sure at first, but she changes her mind after Suki tells her the story on how the Kyoshi Warriors were created. Eventually, Gia accepts the offer, but only if her friends can join her. Suki agrees, and the story ends with Gia and her friends learning how to be the next Kyoshi Warriors. While there are some decent jokes here, that's not the main reason why I love this story. For one, we get a comic that stars Suki. That's always a plus. Second, we get a few Sokka and Suki love moments sprinkled here and there. Most fans will never stop debating about Katang and Zutara, but I've yet to meet someone that doesn't like these two. Also, I love how unworried Sokka was when the shop owners grabbed Suki. He already knows they're gonna get it. He's just like, guys, I'd do what she says if I were you. Don't say I didn't warn you. Being with Suki must make him feel like the luckiest guy in the world. Third, the art style in this comic is really good, and I love the grainy illustrations when we learn about the Kyoshi Warriors' origins. That's the fourth and biggest reason why this comic is so good. During Avatar Kyoshi's time, she would stand up for women against bullies, and then offer to teach them how to defend themselves. The first Kyoshi Warriors were just regular women, weavers, homemakers, etc. But they soon became something extraordinary, and that was how the Kyoshi Warriors were born. The lesson to take from the comic is that the kind of strength Gia wants is not something you have, but something you learn. And anyone like Gia can learn it if they go for it. And that's exactly what Gia does. All those reasons I mentioned are why I love this comic. If you haven't read it yet, check it out. Final score, 9 out of 10. And number 1, Origami. This is my favorite. Not because of jokes, but because of literally everything else. In this story, Katara saves a father, his daughter, and their village from Fire Nation forces. To show their appreciation, the father invites Katara, Aang, and Sokka to his home for dinner. There, the gang learns more about his daughter, Chiyo, a shy and reserved girl who has a special talent of her own. It's not waterbending or earthbending, but it's something that's also cool. She can make origami. Despite her lack of confidence in her work, the gang say they love her talent and want to see all of her origami. When they see her entire room filled with them, the gang say they absolutely love them. But Chiyo thinks they're just being nice and says they have better things to do because they are the heroes, the ones that help people all the time. Not like her and her dumb papers, she says. She's just like, you don't have to just wait around and hope that things get better. But Katara says she actually has to have hope that things can get better. After she gives Chiyo more inspirational words, she, Aang, and Sokka are ready to leave. But before they do, Chiyo gives Katara a new origami she made just for her. It's a paper crane with the Water Tribe colors and markings on it. Katara loves it, hugs Chiyo goodbye, and the Avatar gang leave to continue their journey. This story is amazing. Written and illustrated by Kiko Hughes, the writer and artist for Displacement, she brings her own spin on the Avatar series while still creating something that showcases Avatar at its best. The writing, the art, the dialogue, and the message are great. Thanks to Katara, Chiyo learns that she doesn't have to fight in order to help her people and her village. She can help people by sharing her talents. And yes, she is very talented. I mean, look at her work. It's all so colorful and expertly folded. She sells herself way too short. She's so relatable to anyone who ever doubts their talents. Please, guys, never, ever doubt yourselves and your special talents. If I had those doubts, I wouldn't be making videos like this. If I had those doubts, I wouldn't have even gotten to my 10th anniversary on YouTube. And reading this comic showed me how fortunate I am that I can still do this. This was also a great story for Katara and her character. She's known as the hopeful and optimistic one, but that's because she has to be, not just for her sake, but for Aang, her brother, and all the people they meet in their quest to end the war. She even admits that she wishes she could have more hope. But she also knows that she can't fight a war alone, and that hope is a lot more powerful than we realize. Hope creates inspiration, strength, and determination, and Katara is the embodiment of hope. Thanks to her, Chiyo's viewpoint changes, and the crane she makes for Katara isn't just about honoring her Water Tribe roots. The crane symbolizes luck, peace, and most of all, hope. That, along with everything else I just said, are why I love origami, both the art and the story itself. That's why I'm giving this comic the only 10 out of 10 in this video. Go read it if you haven't already. And finally, here are the honorable mentions. New recruits. The Avatar gang try to recruit some rebels to join their fight against the Fire Nation. We learn their names, their bending powers, and what makes each of them unique. After the gang talks about it, they make their decision on who they want to join them. But before they can give the judgment, the recruits walk out and decide to create their own gang instead. Honestly, if these guys ever got a spin-off show or comic, I read or watch it. Despite being in just a few panels, I did find these guys to be interesting. One can do shadow bending, one has a rock-based animal companion, one can bend cookie dough, which Sokka likes, and the last one is a girl who taught herself how to waterbend. She also has some really cool tattoos and uses waterbending to make her own customized weapons, like the wave ring. Honestly, Vizola is my favorite of the bunch. So it stinks that we only got to see these guys for a very short time, but seeing them go off and make a crew of their own was a nice payoff. It's nothing great, but it's a cute little story. Final score, 6.5 out of 10. Toph and the Boulder. Well, the comic gives us what the title promises. It's Toph and the Boulder having an adventure together. It's cute, and I also think that way about the art style. It's nothing great, but it's fine. 6 out of 10. Sokka's poem. What can I say? I'm a sucker for poetry, and to get a poem from Sokka's perspective is even better. 7 out of 10. And lastly, the Chibu comic. Honestly, they're fine, but they're just not for me. Both this and the Avatar Chibu shorts. If some of you enjoy them, that's great, more power to you. It's just not my thing. 5.5 out of 10. Okay, I think that's enough comics for one day, but as you've seen, Avatar is not just good in animated form. It can be good and even great in comic formats. I highly recommend you get this book. It's not cheap, but it's worth the price. Okay guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts on this video, on the comics I talked about, and what you want to see me review next in the comment section below. Also, if you want to see me talk about the Avatar graphic novel series, let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, my name is Sam, and good night, everybody.